Hey people, hope you guys are all having a wonderful day. Today I wanted to go over K9 Runic. Played Runic for about 2 to 3 years now. I've got Master 5 at least twice with Runic. Obviously this is one of those archetypes that have been hit pretty heavily with the ban hammer, and there hasn't been any alleviation of the ban. The biggest problem with Runic is Runic Fountain at 1. The reason why that is a problem is clearly this character here. Everyone is carrying SP Little Knight in their deck, so basically as soon as you get this fountain out, they're gonna rush, well, they should rush SP Little Knight and just destroy that, and you've completely disabled the Runic part. It would be nice if they brought back Runic Fountain at 2, but obviously Runic is infamously pretty powerful archetype that relies mainly on quick play casting, right? The thing is it basically allows you to banish your opponent. This is a deck that can actually potentially deck out your opponent quite easily. The thing about Runic is every single one of their effects banishes up to from like 1 to 3 cards. Considering most decks are 40, it doesn't take that long until you've thrown away some of your opponent's favorite cards into the banish zone. And not every archetype can easily access the banish zone to get them back. Not every archetype uses the banish zone as an engine, you know? I'll go over each and every single Runic card, and I'll go over every single K9 card, but first let's go into what is the synergy of Runic with K9. K9 is a new engine that came out quite recently. It's a very powerful engine. I think it's one of those engines that's going to stand the test of time. But the thing about it though is it can be a little bit bricky. I'll be honest. You can end up only pulling 2 of your best cards and end up just being like Azuna Path. Runic sort of prevents that because any Runic card can summon out Freki the Runic Fangs, which is a 5-star. You combine this into Ripper, and that's almost like full combo, and you're comboing off to a full end board. It gives a more consistent first turn in general. There is, however, a core weakness of Runic, which is if you activate one of the cards, you skip your next battle phase. So if you're turn 1 where you don't have a battle phase, you won't be able to have a battle phase until turn 3. Same with if you start turn 2. A lot of these Runic cards are very powerful and can allow you to destroy some very weak end boards in this current meta. Anything that's not like meta can end up being completely dismantled with Runic, but you risk turning this into a very long match, which a lot of your wins will be through surrender. A lot of people immediately surrender upon seeing Runic. It's one of those decks that people despise playing against. The other thing about Runic is the fountain, and I mentioned the fountain earlier. Once per turn, if you activate a Runic quick play spell, you can take 3 of the ones in your graveyard, place them on the bottom of your deck, and you can pull as many cards up to that. So part of the Runic sort of engine is using 3 cards per turn, both on your turn and your opponent's turn, to get 3 spell cards in the grave and then pull 3. And also, you can activate Runic quick play spell cards from your hand during your opponent's turn if Fountain's on the field. So this is one of the things that K9 is all about, working on your opponent's turn. Runic's also about working on your opponent's turn. Without further ado, I'm going to go each and every card in my deck so that you guys can get a scope of why I have them in my deck, and I'll explain why. And then eventually I'm going to show you some combos in solo mode so you can get a grasp of how powerful this deck is and what you need to do on your turns. First of all, we have our hand traps, and this is a deck that doesn't require a lot of hand traps, honestly, and it's sort of engine focused as to make sure we don't brick, and we need as much Runic cards as we can in our deck. Maxi is great on our opponent's turn. This is a deck that really loves card advantage, so having that Maxi out there letting us pull into Runic cards, especially when we have Fountain up. One thing about Runic cards is they're once per turn, so you can only use one on our turn and their turn, so make sure to make them count. Other than that, yeah, obviously Ash Blossom, make sure they can't max you on our turn, though we don't rely on special summoning as much as other decks. It's still just nice. Molcharmy, Perolia, good if it comes up, and good as a cross-out designator target, though as I said, we don't really care too much about special summoning. Molcharmy Fool is another one. All of this goes into the fact that we like card advantage and as a cross-out designator target. Next up is Azuna. Azuna is namely like the poster child for K9. It acts as a foolish burial for K9 units, where usually our target is this fella over here. I'll go into him later on. But yeah, she has this neat ability where if your opponent activates a hand trap, you can special summon this card from your hand. If your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. Usually they will in the first or second turn. We'll go into the next card coming up. So Jokul, if your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. You can only use one of the effects of Jokul once per turn. You can reveal this card and one other level 5 in your hand. Special summon both, but they cannot be used as material for the XYZ summon of a light monster, which we really don't care about. During your main phase, you can add one non-aqua K9 monster from your deck. So this is a searcher. It summons itself, summons another K9, has this weird effect that really doesn't come up, and yeah, it's one of our best cards. I'll go into some of our monsters that we like to XYZ and stuff like that later on, but yeah, another banger. So K9 is sort of your monster reborn. If your opponent has 2 or so monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. I'm just not going to repeat that, but you can only use one of these effects of K9 and 65B once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can target one level 5 non-pyro K9 monster in your graveyard. Special summon both it and this card, but they cannot be used for XYZ summon of a light monster, which you don't care about, as I mentioned before. Then you can search out one of your K9 spells or traps from your deck to your hand. Obviously, we will be sending K9s to the graveyard during our basic combos when we're making our XYZs and stuff like that. So this is just allows us to gas more. We like 3 of each of these and as much Jokuls as we can. If this becomes 3, we want 3 of them, okay? Next up is Lupus. The reason why this guy is your foolish burial target is during your opponent's turn, if they do anything that involves the hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card and then immediately XYZ summon this into something. And anything that's been XYZ summoned using Lupus, your opponent cannot target this card with guard effects. So any of your XYZ monsters made by him immediately become boss monster territory. So that's sick, you know. Next up is Noroi, and has the same effect as all the other K9s, where if they have 2 or more cards, you can just special summon. If this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one non-machine K9, which they're all non-machine from your deck, but you cannot special summon from the extra deck except K9 monsters while you control that face-up monster. So basically, this is another summon +1. You want 3 of these, all possible. All of these cards are very valuable. The only one that I would take down to maybe a 1 or a 2 is Lupus. Nib's pretty bad this season. However, this deck's really good against rogue decks, and a lot of people who have rogue decks cannot deal with Nib, and they don't really expect Nib. Honestly, you could replace this with like a lava golem or sphere mode or something like that, and it'd probably do you a lot better. I covered Runic Fountain in its entirety earlier. One of the things about Runic Fountain is obviously it's been limited, so if this becomes less, like 2 or 3, you want to be carrying as many Runic Fountains as possible. I wouldn't really worry about getting terraforming or any of that thing to try and get it out, because you do have a searcher in Hugin, and I'll go into Hugin later on, and also this can sort of help you get it back from the grave if it's been sent to the graveyard. But outside of that, yeah, it's basically the crux of Runic. Without it, you're sort of fucked, because it completely enables you to do the working on your opponent's turn thing. And without that element within the game, you know, losing your battle phase is too much of a ask. All these become essentially bricks once this is gone, so try and make sure you can't let that fucking SP Little Knight take this thing out. Next up is a case for K9. This is a great searcher for your deck. You put this down, you add one of your K9 monsters, and that sort of allows it to combo into other things. If they use a hand trap during your turn, you get 900 attack. This will allow you to beat over a lot of opponents. This will bring most of the K9s up to 2,900. Once this has been like destroyed, you can set one K9 quick play spell from your deck. One thing that we like to do is destroy this, send it to the graveyard, and then grab this card here, which allows us to XYZ summon on your opponent's turn. And cross out. I mean, this is just great for like answering Molcharmies. Though we don't care too much about special summoning as a whole, either Fulalos or Paralia would be a pain in the ass. So being able to call by it or cross out it really helps, because we do summon from the hand and we do summon from the extra deck, so it's sort of a no-brainer to have both these. Now finally we're going into the Runic cards. So first of all, one thing about Runics is they can all special summon any of these 3 cards without any of the requirements such as fusioning or whatsoever. That comes into it a lot because Hugin will get out the fountain. Gary will bring the fountain back if it's sent to the graveyard or destroyed, and Frecky will allow us to XYZ with our K9s. Runic Tip is one of the ones that are better than the other ones because it is our searcher and is a great combo piece for Runic and as a whole. So basically, you can add one Runic card from your deck to your hand, except Runic Tip, then banish the top card of your opponent's deck. This is great for just going straight to Fountain without having to summon Hugin, though might as well summon Hugin, doesn't matter. But basically, we can just read our opponent's board, see which card's the best to sort of dismantle it, such as Flashing Fire, or maybe we need our Runic Destruction or Freezing Curses so that we can destroy our opponent's end board. On the second turn, we can just go straight to that card, bloop, bloop, and sort of combo off. So this is one of our best cards. Definitely you always want to be opening with this. If this comes to 3, you want to put this at 3. Next up is Runic Flashing Fire. It's one of the only Runic cards that we have which are at 3. Activate one of these effects, target one special summon monster your opponent controls, destroy it, then banish 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. You can only activate one Runic Flashing Fire per turn, which is the major drawback to this. So say you're going turn 2, this is only going to remove one monster, and a lot of the boss monsters now these days are not affected by destruction effects. So you're going to have to double up with Freezing Curses, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, so the fact that this is like just a once per turn sort of sucks. But it's another Runic card, and it's one of the ones that you're going to get the most uses out of, if you know what I mean. So carry 3 of these at least right now, as it's one of the better Runic cards. Next up is Destruction, which is at 1, which I personally do not agree with, but it's basically like the same thing but for spell cards. But yeah, target one spell trap your opponent controls, destroy it, then banish the top 4 cards of your opponent's deck. I think the reason why this is so banned is due to how much this mills your opponent. But yeah, this definitely comes up. You want to be searching this out with Tip a lot of the time to destroy your opponent's field spell or back row or whatever. But yeah, definitely a great card that you should be running probably at 2 or 3 if this becomes less of a ban. Next up is Runic Freezing Curses. This is sort of your infinite impermanence or whatever, you know. This lets you basically target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects, then banish top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. You can only have this at 2, you'd be running this at 3 if this was unlimited. But yeah, it's basically infinite impermanence. You combo this up with Flashing Fire, and it usually will take down their boss monster and mill like 6 cards from their deck. Considering that they're pulling like 5 at the start, so that's like 1/4 of their deck just instantly in the banish zone. So just keep that in mind. Next coming up is Slumber. So target one monster in the field. Next time that monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it is not destroyed. Basically, this allows you to make any of your K9s or whatever floaty. So basically, yeah, like if your effect monster would be destroyed by battle, basically it isn't. And also banish top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. This one okay at 2. Like if it became unlimited, you could run it at 3 if you want. But yeah, it's a decent card. It's just not got any offensiveness, which we really sort of lack offensiveness. We want to be board breaking, and the thing about Runick in general is it's sort of a board breaker deck, but it's not as strong as it should be. It's only good at like destroying like half boards and stuff like that, but I won't go into that yet. But next up is Runick Dispelling, which has a special synergy with our deck because our deck actually does a lot of hand ripping. If your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, except during their draw phase, discard 1 random card from their hand, then banish top 2 cards of the deck. So basically, yeah, that's a hand rip. And if we combine it with, for instance, this one here, so attach 1 material from this card, then activate this effect depending on whose turn it is. Look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 card from it face up until the end of the phase. So yeah, so you hand rip another card from their hand. This guy here, if we go here, he's one of our end board pieces. You can attach 1 material from this card, negate the activation, then you can send 1 random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard. So that's 3 hand rips. So if we have like a good board, like our good like first turn board, and we have Dispelling in hand, we're throwing like half their hand to the graveyard or banish zone. So just keep that in mind. It's something to think about. Next comes up is K9 X Force Release. This is basically a quick play spell card, so it allows us to XYZ summon on our opponent's turn. You can search it out by destroying K9 case. We can use this, like we destroy this with, say, this buddy here, and then we can search it out and put it down on the field so that we can play on our opponent's turn. We use that to summon out our boss monster on our opponent's turn, which has a summoning effect where basically we can hand rip them. And we can also use it for getting this guy out. If this is XYZ disorder, you can attach 1 to destroy 1 monster in the field. Without further ado, we'll get into the Runick cards. So this is Hugin. If this card is special summoned from the extra deck, you can discard 1 card, add 1 Runick field spell from your deck to your hand. You can use this, for example, to discard 1 of your Runick cards, and then when you put down the fountain and then use a Runick card, that's 2 cards in the graveyard already, so that you can pull another 2. Just something to keep in mind. If another card you control would be destroyed by a card effect, namely Fountain, you can banish this card from your control instead. Obviously, this is only destruction protection, but it does come up now and again. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, return this card to the extract. So, yeah, basically, if this would be like destroyed, you can just bring it back again. And yeah, pretty cool. It can allow us to get into SB Little Knight in those crucial moments where we need to get this like banish removal up on the field. Because this is generally an unsolved synergy for the most part, Hugin, a common complaint with Hugin is that you can't get Hugin off the field so that they can summon Frecky. Just remember, you have this deck's all about level 5s, and you can just tribute over Hugin if she is taking up your extra monster slot zone. Next up is Gary. Gary, if this is special summoned from the extra deck, you can target 1 non-quick play Runick spell and add it to your hand. So this is basically how you get Fountain back if it was destroyed. When this card is destroyed by battle, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. And this cannot be destroyed by card effects. So yeah, no, basically this is also somewhat of a removal. You can just bash this into someone and remove their monster. But yeah, obviously if you're summoning this guy out, it's hard to have a battle phase, so that also comes up. Yeah, it's got some like floaty effects. You know, obviously we can't be destroyed by card effects, and obviously they're going to try and destroy them, so you can use that to target one card of the field, destroy it. And obviously, yeah, it gets you back Fountain, stuff like that. And outside of that, not that great. That thing is because Runic Fountain is the target of banishing a lot from SP Little Knight. I'm just going to bring this up again. That is a core weakness of this deck, is this getting banished with SP Little Knight. But outside of that, though, like a lot of people's like terms of like spell and trap removal is limited. Yeah, like, a lot of people will just use Harpy's Feather Duster or whatever. But you know, a lot of people will have SP Little Knight, but they might not be smart enough to put 2 and 2 together a lot of the time, so just keep that in mind, and that's when Gary comes in hand. Finally, Frecky. Frecky has a high 2000 attack. Obviously, you won't be able to attack on the turn you summon them because of the battle phase restrictions. When an attack is declared involving this card in the extra monster zone, you can banish the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So if they try to attack it, you're going to end up banishing some of their stuff. Neither player can take any battle damage from attacks involving this card, so even if they want to remove this, it's going to be a pain in the ass. If this card on the field is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can target one Runic quick play spell in your graveyard, add it into your hand. Very useful. But the main thing that Frecky's all about is he's a 5-star. And basically, if we have any of our K9s and we summon them and we fuse them with Frecky, we can go into K9 17 Ripper, and that allows us to search more K9s from our deck, and that allows us into full combo. So this is a key part. You have to have this if you're running K9. But yeah, this is the key synergy between K9 and Runic, and it's what allows them to bridge into one another. So next up is Masquerade. Now this is part of a bigger combo, and I'll go into that, I guess, now. So basically, like, there's this card called Nash here. You basically XYZ summon into this. You can detach 2 materials from this, attach 1 number XYZ monster from your extra deck between 101 and 107. You target this guy here, you attach that to Nash, and then you XYZ summon him into this guy here, XCYZ Nash Knight. Chaos Knight, I think it's what it is, but you XYZ summon into this guy here, and when this card is special summoned, you can target 1 spell trap on the field. You can use K9 Case so that you can search out K9 X Force Release, or if you're on your second turn, you can use this as a part of like a removal. Once per turn, when a monster effect is activated on the opponent's field, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate the activation, then you can send 1 random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, and if you do, half your opponent's LP. So this is a devastating effect, and this is why we have this combo line in our deck. The individual cards are pretty good. I'll say this guy has some uses, but this combo line is basically the high Caesar of K9. Like, if you guys are familiar with Fiendsmith, like, this is the best non-engine 5-star sort of combination, and this is our pathway to it, and this is usually our end board 100% of the time. Wind up arsenals and Mile. This is my one flex spot. This can be replaced with a Hugin or a Frecky, depends on what you want to do, or maybe another werewolf or whatever. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 2 set cards on the field, destroy them. This helps us deal with traps. Outside of that, obviously, it can be made generically with any of the K9s, and you can replace this with whatever. Up to you. Next up is K9 Ripper. This is one of the essential K9 cards, one of the sort of hallmark cards. We make this using like Frecky or any of our K9 cards, or by fusing 2 of our K9 cards. This is usually one of our pathways into it. You can detach one material from this card and add one K9 card from your deck to your hand. This allows us to basically bridge the Runick engine into the K9 engine if we have one K9 card. You can set one K9 card, like Quick Play Spiral, from the deck or graveyard if someone has activated a monster effect this turn. So basically, if someone has used, for example, a hand trap against you, you can use this to sort of get more plus by setting down basically K9X Force Release. Outside of that as well, this acts as a powerful monster negation. When your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or graveyard, quick effect, you can detach one material from this card to negate that effect. This second effect is why Nib's so bad this season, because if you get this out, they can't nib you afterwards because you can just negate it. This is also why Droll's so bad this season, because basically if you add one K9 card from your deck to your hand, they try to activate Droll, then you can detach one material from this card and negate that effect, and then there's no Droll. Next up is Jax. If this is summoned, you can detach one material from this card and then target one monster in the field and destroy it. This is good for basically starting second. This will allow us to remove one of the monsters on the field. And if we have this combined with a K-Star K9, which gives us another 900, this card becomes quite beefy at 3,500. During any turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect, any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is doubled. So this is alright. Like, it also makes it like a good Zeus target as well. Next up is K9 Werewolf. This is our boss monster, and we want to be really sparing with him, as once he's off the field, we can't get him back. While this card has material, it can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of materials attached to it. So if you fusion summon this with 2 XZ monsters, which you're probably going to do, this is going to be able to attack twice. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can detach one material from this card, then activate this effect on whose turn it is. So basically it has an effect on your turn or your opponent's turn. Your turn, if you turn into this during your turn, you can banish out one card each from your opponent's field and graveyard. This is a very powerful banish effect. Look at your opponent's hand and banish one card on your opponent's turn until the end phase. So this is basically a hand drip. And as I mentioned before, with this guy here and this guy here, we can effectively hand drip 3 times during an opponent's turn. So it's a very powerful combo. We also want to like sort of incorporate Lupus if we can, as this ability to not be targeted by a card effects is great, because we really do not want K9 Werewolf being affected or removed from the field if we can get one there. Typhon's also another great card for us, because while this is XYZ summoned on the field, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack. Conveniently though, all of our monsters generally only go up to 2,900, even with the case of for K9 on the field. So unless it's like Werewolf, you know, is on the field, we really don't care about Typhon being in the field, and a lot of people do care about having Typhon in the field. And we can make them very easily, as we're a very XYZ kind of deck, and it has a good board breaker removal. Just be wary if you do, you cannot normal or special summon for the rest of the turn, and it wants your highest attack monster in the field, so just keep that in mind when you're summoning this big fella out. Also, it's just great because, you know, we like to stall out the combat, and with Flashing Fire, we have 1 removal, and at most 1 spell removal, you know. So just getting this guy to get that extra bit of removal and stall combat for another turn or 2 is great. Finally, SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is just too good, man, and like it's very easy to make. You easily summon 2 monsters on the field with our little buddy Jokul here. Sprites around. There's tons of stuff that this sort of plays around and sort of beats, so it's just nice to have this little buddy in our team. I'm also going to just quickly cover Moonin as an honorable mention. This guy can basically prevent Fountain being banished by SP Little Knight. Our ED deck is sort of full, but if you're in TCG or OCG, this is something you might want to consider. On top of that, there's obviously Smiting Storm, which perhaps has one of the best banish effects that Runick has if you're really wanting to go for a deck out strategy, which I don't recommend always going for a deck out strategy. This is a sort of deck which you play around your opponent, so you can decide where you're going to go beat down, or if you're going to go for the whole like deck out strategy, which this allows us to banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck up to the number of cards they control. A lot of people like to clog up their monster zones, they like to clog up their ED zone, they like to clog up their field zone. So this allows us to potentially remove quite a lot of cards from their deck. And on top of that, if they have a lot of cards on their field, they don't have a lot in their deck. But another thing to consider is if they have a lot on their field, then they possibly have an answer to this. So yeah, something to consider. Next up, I want to show you guys the basic K9 engine and the basic Runic engine. And after that, I'm going to go into solo mode and play this deck against some of the later solo mode gates. And so you can get an idea of some of the play style and an end board that you can expect from K9 Runic.
New perspective gain from all the pain and stress, and when I do come back, I'm stronger than ever before. So you don't disturb me, no please. Look into my eyes, now tell me the things you love me about behind my back.
While I put you in a trance, let's party. Boogie in your body. Work that body, make sure you don't hurt nobody. I say, hey, 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 feel the fire with a burning desire. Yeah, get up off of that thing. Dance and shake and let's swing. Come on, go, let me rock the world.
Hey, so I'm in solo mode. So let's do a quick combo using K9 Runesmith. So first of all, let's just the one that we're gonna get the least amount of is this. So use this to special summon one Runic monster. We want to go into Frecky. We summon Frecky onto the field, and then we use this to summon. They have enough cards, so you can summon. You search for Case, and you get Case out, and then we add a Zuna to our hand. We do this, boop. And then we use our Case for K9, boop. And we use that to add Jokel. And now we have Jokel in our hand. And then we use Jokel's effect to send this buddy onto the field. So we summon both of them. Boom, boom. And then with the K9 Azuna effect, we send Lupus to the graveyard. And then after that, we can use this to add any non-Aqua K9 to our hand. We add K9 66B Lantern because we've got a monster in the graveyard. And then we use his effect to special summon this guy. So we got boop, boop. And now we have a full deck. So you can use this to basically begin doing what we want. So we go like boop, boop, boop. And then we can just doop and send this guy away. So we can send both these guys away. And then we take this. And then and then we use this to go into here. Deep, deep. Right. And then we go into then we activate this. And then we detach this guy. And then we close this, and then we go into this. Oop, oop. And then after that, we activate this effect here. Take this, boop, we pop it, and then we use the ability in case of K9 to search out this thing here. And then we go boop, and then we go on to, we got like 2 more Rippers here. We basically got Ripper here, so we can basically summon any of this or this if we want, and we can also put this down. So on their turn, basically we can, like, if we can exit the YZ and this into, like, for example, this guy here or something. So we can just go like boop, boop, and no, we don't have to do that. Basically, if your opponent activates a monster, you can detach something, destroy the monster in the field. Next turn, this will hand rip. The next turn, if they activate something, you can detach one, negate that effect. In here, we obviously have both Azuna and whatever. And basically, so as soon as like effect activates, we can send Lupus to the graveyard. And then we can use that to get both Azuna and Lupus out, and we can do another XYZ summon. Forced release, so that can go into, basically we can go into Werewolf, and that will hand rip. So we've got 1, 2, 3 hand rips. So half their deck is going to go to the graveyard or the banish zone on their turn. And even on top of this, we could potentially, since we already used a Runic monster, we could go into this here, and we can just sacrifice our Moltrami because we're never gonna have like an empty field. Add Runic, yeah.
so we're ready. We might want to hold off on the Runic Fountain, so, or we could just do it here. So, because this is activate, you know, we can wait till they start going off, and when this activates, we'll get our 3 cards back because we threw 3 to the graveyard. So, as you can see, this is a pretty powerful board. Let me know if you guys agree. This is essentially why it is, because like if I had just pulled that lantern by itself, I would have been a brick. And now I have removal, hand rips, negates, everything, you know. Anyway, this is K9 Runic. I hope this makes sort of sense and can help you guys get started. I know that a lot of people don't have the Runic cards, or maybe don't even have the K9 cards, but if you are just sort of window shopping, thank you for watching this far. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and maybe you've learned a few things about counting K9 Runic as well. I've tried to cover the weaknesses of the deck, so let me know down below if this has been helpful. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.